Hey guys, welcome back to Follow Me 11B. Discussions on current events, macroeconomics, and freedom and liberty from a veteran's perspective. Well, I am back from R&R, and one of my last stops I made was in the great Wisconsin Northwoods, Rhinelander, home of the Hodag Monster. Also home of the a giant country music festival every July. So if you're a country music fan and you happen to be in Wisconsin next July, check it out. But for today's video, I wanted to pose the question, are the January 6th hearings the true danger to democracy? So, to start things off, I wanted to go through a list of the members of the U.S. House Select Committee on the January 6th attacks, or the January 6th Committee for short. Benny Thompson of Mississippi, Democrat, he is the chair. Adam Schiff, Democrat, California. Zoe Lofgren, California. Pete Aguilar, California. Stephanie Murphy, Florida. Jamie Raskin, Maryland. Elaine Luria, Virginia, all Democrats. And the sole two members of the committee that are Republicans. Liz Cheney, the vice chair of the committee, Republican of Wyoming, and, in my opinion, one of the dumbest members of Congress, Adam Kinzinger, Republican of Illinois. So, let's start things off with an article from 538 that I came across, and it is entitled, "The January 6th Committee's Closing Argument Was About Trump's Morality." It's by Kaylee Rogers, and it's from July 22nd, 2022. And it goes something like this. As members of Pence's security detail were telling colleagues over the radio to tell their families that they love them, Trump did nothing. In the final summertime hearing from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack, the focus was on Trump's inaction for more than 3 hours during the violence at the Capitol. After 8 hearings detailing everything Trump had done that led to the attack, framing it as potentially criminal, the committee spent this last hearing focused on what the former president didn't do and framed it as a moral failing. It's no secret that the January 6th committee has been using the hearings in part to lay out an argument that Trump may be liable for criminal charges. In a court filing in March, the committee suggested it had sufficient evidence to conclude that, quote, the president and members of his campaign engaged in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States. The laugh wasn't actually part of the quote. Committee members, including the vice chair, Representative Liz Cheney, have said the Department of Justice should not shy away from prosecuting Trump if prosecution is warranted. And the hearings have prompted endless speculation from what crimes, if any, the former president could be charged with. Though it's ultimately up to the Department of Justice, which is conducting its own investigation into January 6th, to decide whether charges are warranted, the committee, aka the Star Chamber, but I digress, has made its case over the past few months. I like how they announced that it has made its case over the last few months. You can already tell which direction the slant on this article is. But it's hard, here, back to the article, but it's hard to prove that inaction constitutes a crime. And so, on Thursday, the committee tried to make a different case. The committee focused on evidence showing that everyone around Trump that day, his staffers, his attorneys, even his children, had urged him to speak out, to condemn the violence, and to tell the rioters to go home. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Trump eventually did, putting out a public statement asking the rioters to go home peacefully, though he also added, "We love you. You're very special." Skip the next paragraph. But in the case of the target of the committee's criticism, in the case of the target of the committee's criticism wasn't obvious, committee members minced no words. As the hearing drew to a close, Representative Adam Kinzinger called Trump's inaction on January 6th. I'm going to pump my chest out for this one. A dereliction of duty, emphasizing why they were closing the summer hearings with a focus on this small chapter of the January 6th saga. I also want to jump over to another article I came across in politicspa.com by Rick Saccone. And I wanted to talk about this one, though, because now that, like, the January 6th hearings, they seem to be extending their tentacles into their political rivals' campaigns now. So let's go to this article and see here. According to a report this afternoon from Politico, Republican gubernatorial candidate Doug Mastriano is balking when it comes to his scheduled interview with the January 6th Select Committee. I wonder why. They seem so measured and non-biased. But I digress. Back to the article. In a letter addressed to Chair Benny Thompson, Democrat of Mississippi, Mastriano lawyer Timothy C. Parlatore said the Republican would not testify unless Parlatore can record the session. Here's an awesome quote here. Senator Mastriano is currently the Republican nominee for governor and is engaged in a hotly contested general election race. Given the committee's demonstrated propensity for releasing edited clips of interviews without requisite context to support a false partisan narrative, I am concerned that they will do the same to Senator Mastriano. Members of your party, like Sean Patrick Maloney, Democrat campaign chair, have openly admitted that the goal of the hearings you are conducting is intended to paint the Republican Party as irresponsible and power-hungry ahead of the midterms. For this reason, my client has legitimate concerns that your committee may attempt to influence the outcome of the Pennsylvania state elections through dissemination of information. Parlatore has been frustrated by the committee's apparent unwillingness to consider his proposals to address Mastriano's concerns. Here's one other quote, even better than the last. Your refusal to even discuss this and instead demand a compelled deposition does not indicate any legitimate investigative interest and actually reveals an attempt to misuse your committee to disseminate disinformation to improperly influence the outcome of an election. If we cannot agree on a reasonable arrangement for a voluntary interview, then we will have little choice but to go to court and litigate this issue. Unquote. A spokesman for the Select Committee declined to comment. Well, I love the way they totally turned that around on them with the disinformation thing. And, logic wins in the end. But in my opinion, the January 6th committee is not doing itself any favors. Number one, I believe that most people made their minds up about Donald Trump years ago. They made their minds up that, hey, he's not a perfect man. He's got a mouth on him, and he doesn't always use the King's English. But at the very least, they made up their minds in the days after the January 6th riot, I should say. And I don't think that this is going to move the needle at all. But even if it does, number two, if it does move the needle, I don't think it's going to move the needle in the favor. It might move the needle against Donald Trump, but if it does, I don't think it's going to move the needle in the favor of the Democrats. And I kind of covered that in my last video. But their calculation, in my opinion, is that Donald Trump is going to clean their clock in November 2024. So their plan, destroy him. That is their plan, in my opinion. Now, you don't believe that? Well, they have already announced that they may reconvene the January 6th group, the committee, after the midterm elections, just in time to further destroy Donald Trump if necessary. But again, what if Trump doesn't even run? Again, I discussed this on my last video, but basically it's a lot of time and a lot of resources that the Democrats would have spent attacking and trying to destroy Donald Trump when maybe, we find out that indeed it's Joe Biden going to be running, or, who knows, pick a Democrat that's going to be running instead of Joe Biden. Whoever the Democratic candidate gets, is announced as, they wait weeks, they wait months, and then they announce, hey, by the way, I'm not running. So thanks for, using your entire bankroll, your entire war chest on attacking me. Meanwhile, it's going to be XYZ candidate, and they will ride in on their white horse and basically clean the, they will clean the clock of the Democrats. I think that's a very likely scenario. But this is another problem for the Democrats, in my opinion. They are going to be taken to the woodshed by the voters because instead of taking care of actual problems like inflation, like the devaluing of the dollar, like China, Russia, supply chain bottlenecks, no formula in the grocery store, etc., etc., etc. You guys get the idea. They're going to be throwing all their time and energy and resources at Donald Trump. And the voters are not going to respond well to that, in my opinion. One last thing I wanted to talk about, too, is that I noticed, I'm sure you'd agree, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, somewhere in between, that most news channels are not exactly friendly to Donald Trump. But I've noticed when I'm scrolling around, doing, checking out various news articles and videos for my videos, that most of the reporters on MSNBC, CNN, CBS, pick a station, basically, they announce when Donald Trump does of late speech or a rally, he always announces it that, when he talks about how the election was stolen, they always say he repeated the lie that the election was stolen. But I'm going to ask you a question. If he believes that the election was stolen, is that a lie? I mean, a lie, in my opinion, is if you know something is not true and you repeat it or you keep telling people it, that's called a lie. If you think that something is true and you repeat your opinion, that's your opinion. Now, take it or leave it. But there was a female comedian a few years back, right around the time of 9/11, that was on a popular daytime talk show. You probably know who I'm talking about. And she used to talk about how 9/11, there were charges placed in the garage of the Twin Towers by our own government to take down the Twin Towers, to create a false flag operation, and create a war in the Middle East. Now, is that spreading disinformation? If she actually believed it, which I believe she does. I personally kind of think that's crazy, as probably most of you do. But if she believed it, it's her opinion, right? Might be a crazy opinion, might be a controversial opinion, but it's her opinion. And I believe that's the same thing for our former president, Donald J. Trump. But I could be wrong. I would love to hear what you guys think. In my opinion, though, to answer the original question, are the January 6th hearings the true danger to democracy? Well, in my opinion, these guys, Thundar the Barbarian and Ukla, had zero chance of taking over the United States of America. Ever. Period. End of story. So, meanwhile, the January 6th hearings, they're kind of degrading our faith in the institutions of government. And especially when they put them on live primetime TV. Bad idea. So, in my opinion, yes, January 6th Select Committee is more of a danger, the true danger to democracy, rather than these guys. Come on. So, I could be wrong. I would love to hear your thoughts. Put them in the comments below. In the meantime, we are growing. We are Follow Me 11B on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Gettr, and we are at The Real Follow Me 11B on Instagram and Rumble, and we will see you all on the next video.